Hey guys, so I'm going to answer a question that was put to me by one of my mentees. I figured it would be a good video for the broader channel. So let's just jump into it here. Hi Stef, before you disappear from the internet for the weekend and into your moving nightmare, a small business owner from Florida wants me to run his marketing everything. So as I talked about in my freelance courses and on the YouTube channel, etc., that when you are a web professional freelancer, there's going to be all kinds of different job opportunities offered to you that are not necessarily code-centric or focused. They could be broad, like social media marketing, maintaining a WordPress site, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you never know what exactly it's going to be. That being said, having a code background is going to make you much more productive. And whether you're writing code or doing this kind of stuff, it's all the same, really. So let's just jump into it. We'll get into some details. I successfully use Fiverr BS Gig to want them to work with me on real projects for actually money outside of Fiverr. However, I am not sure if I can handle not being screwed over financially. So we'll get into the details, and I'm going to give you some strategies. Now, since you're a mentee, you should first access the freelance course, PDQ, pretty darn quick, because you're going to get some answers there. In this case, the project would include email campaigns, Instagram, Facebook post copy. They would provide photos. So in this case, you see this a lot. They're not willing to, the business owner is not willing to write the copy. So you're going to have to write copy. Again, besides this normal day-to-day communications with clients, having ability to write well is going to pay off. 3, setting up tools to sell off socials, IG, Shopify for IG. Setting up tools to sell off of socials, yeah. So again, as I talked about before, installing, setting up shopping carts, in this case, a Shopify site, that makes sense. Running Instagram, Facebook ads that go to landing pages with coupons, email, list, subscribe, pop-up, Shopify, keyword search, and analytics, of course. I'll scroll down, analytics. Now, all this stuff here, by the way, this is getting pretty advanced. You're not just doing social media marketing. You're literally setting up their sales and marketing funnel online, which is not cheap work. You're not going to want inexperienced people to do this. I'm a business owner. There's a lot here, a lot to do. So this is, in my book, worth a lot of money if you're going to provide all these services. Stringing all these things together, it's very important to business, right? I have done these in one way or the other. I'm not sure how to approach it. If I want to put him on a monthly retainer, he also said he'd be okay to pay me a commission on top of the monthly retainer. I'm not able to really pinpoint how much I'd want. I know that it would likely be quite a work to set up everything. Once it's set up, it'd be much easier. I'm right now repeating the JS course. This is a StudioWeb JS course, my JS course, and getting going with PHP course, and it takes a lot of time to drill the coding concepts into my thick artist skull. Don't worry, once you get it in there, it ain't leaving. That's the beautiful thing about learning how to code, by the way. Once you understand it, once you get it, the basic concepts, because you're basically rewiring your brain to a certain extent, you have it for life. So it's worth doing. It's worth doing. And ironically, understanding how to code and stuff will make it a lot easier for you in some respects to do all these different things. You'll know why once you get in deeper to coding. Anyway, let me continue. I'm afraid to lose all my time while underselling myself. Well, don't undersell yourself. I know he can pay, though. I watched your freelance course, too. Okay, you did watch the freelance course. That's good. Go back, look at how you cost out things. I have no problem with a retainer, but then the setup might be brutal time-wise. Retainer plus setup fees, maybe. 100%. 100%. We're going to get into it in a second. He wants to give it a try for a month or two, and then if I improve his numbers or his quality of life for the matter, then he would continue. A comment would be appreciated. All right, so this is where you hit the nail on the head. You do need to have a retainer because there's a pile of work here to set up all this stuff. So the good thing is you say you've done this before, so you're able to hopefully reasonably accurately assess how much time all this is going to take. Now, as a general rule of, as I specified in the freelance course, as a general rule, you multiply your time that you estimate to do a job by 2.4. So if you estimate it's going to be 10 hours of work, you should price out 24 hours of work. As you become better at assessing projects through the strategies I give in the freelance course with the timeline tracker, etc., you will be able to become much more accurate, so that 2.4 will shrink to 2, and then 1.5, and 1.2, etc. Now, you always have to build into any quotes or any time that you allocate towards doing something, you have to build in some padding there, because there's always going to be things that come up. It never runs super smooth. That's just not the nature of the game. If it does, that's just unusual, and that's great. So what you got to do, you got to tell him there's got to be a retainer, because there's a lot of work to set all this stuff up. And then you have to come to, you have to have a setup fee besides the retainer, because you don't want to spend hours and hours of days and days and days setting up all this stuff. And then after a month, he decides that it's not worth it to him and you didn't get much in terms of retainer fees. So you have to have a setup cost. Every business has setup costs. If you think about SAP, one of the largest software manufacturers in the world, they will charge huge amounts of money just to set up their software. In fact, when I was working for a short period of time for a big, huge company that I was working with, Fortune 500s and big telcos and so forth, the people who make a big amount of money are the people who just go in there and do project analysis, business analysis. They go in there to analyze a business, to see what needs to be done in terms of software development and so forth. That's a big part of the job. So they're being paid big money before they even think about writing any code. It's the pre-coding phase. So here, in this situation, you're going to have a implementation phase and an implementation phase where you're going to have to, where do you set up your email campaigns? Who's the provider? You got to sign up for all that stuff. Okay, you got to start figuring out a workflow with this guy in terms of writing the post. You got to charge for your time writing a post. What's your time worth? I don't know if it's worth $20 an hour, $50 an hour, $100 an hour. It depends where you live in the world. You got to look at average salaries and so forth. But let's say you were going to make, let's say for the sake of argument, where you live in the world, to do this working for somebody, you would make $50,000 a year. I'm just using an even number. It could be much more, it could be a little less, depending on your level of skill, where you live, et cetera. But let's say it's $50,000 a year. You have to charge $100 to do that, because you got $100 the hour to meet that level. Roughly. But so what you got to do is you got to figure out how much time it's going to take you to do all these steps: email campaigns, setting up selling tools off of socials like Shopify, etc. How long is this going to take you to do, right? So if you say it's going to take me 25 hours, bid 50 at your rate that you can, you think that makes sense to you. And then you come up with this retainer. Now try to really, since you've done this before, how much time will it take to execute on these plans, right? To put out the socials and stuff. So you're going to have to look at that. But really think about this, and don't create elaborate contracts and plans before you give them kind of a baseline, what to expect very quickly. Say, listen, this is going to take me, you may say, this is going to take me, 25 hours to set up. My rate, that's going to cost you, whatever it is. It could be 25 times $20 the hour, 25 times 50 an hour, $50 the hour. And you can negotiate on that, And then you say on the back end, you say, once we've implemented all this, okay, how long is he going to stick with this? Is he going to stick with this, in terms of your retainer? Is he going to stick with it 3 months, 5 months, 6 months, whatever you do? Don't let him sell you on, yeah, but you shouldn't charge me so much on the setup because you could be on retainer for a year or two. There's nothing stopping this client from dropping you after 2 months or 30 days if they don't want to. So you have to make money for all this work here. So this is a good opportunity to start building a portfolio with this. And this could be a template that you can use to establish a type of client. Imagine you got a bunch of these guys where you set all this up. You got a nice package where you say, I'll set you all this stuff up. And then we'll have, you put me on retainer, and this is what I'm going to do, X number of posts per week, etc. If I write the copy, you're going to have to charge me this. You got to charge for that, right? If you are going to be spending time writing a copy for them, involving them to get images and writing copy, you got to charge for that. And it's not a $2 the hour job here. This is a significant. Good writing skills usually is very dependent on the country of origin. Like, in India, for example, they do write English, but for me to write for that audience, I would sound like a foreigner because I don't know the culture, right? So if I was going to be targeting the Indian market, I would definitely hire an Indian native to write the copy because they know how to express themselves in a way that satisfies that culture. Same thing in North America or the UK. There is a subtlety. Even though Canadian English, American English, UK, British English, they are all subtly different from each other. And I can tell when it's a Canadian writing a lot of the times. I can tell especially when it's a UK citizen, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, if you're writing for somebody who is in the States, then you have to value your writing skills because they will not be able to get good writing if they outsource this out of country, that's for sure. So there you go. I hope this makes sense. This is where you have to, at the start of the project, make sure you have in writing clear, simple proposals for your client so that everybody understands where they stand, what the expectations are, who's going to get paid what and how much. And don't sell yourself short on this setup because this setup, you know what you're doing because you said you've done this before. But for him, it's black magic voodoo. So don't underestimate the value of all of this as well. And then there you go. So yeah, definitely you want to get a setup fee. You can't count on, I don't care what he says. I don't say, I'm going to keep it for 6 months. There's no guarantee of that. So you have to get your money for this. And that's how the big businesses operate. If he gives you flack, that's a standard in tech industry. If I'm doing the analysis and setting all this up, this is a lot of work. My time is worth money. And there you go. I hope that helps. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.